Sweet. Looks like we're live. I guess I'll talk a little bit. Certainly have a lot to work on. Right now I am going through the TDA rules. Hey ETN, what's going on? How are you? What is... I'm trying to get my screen organized so I can like crank out some stuff. I also want to see how many people are watching at any given time so that I can be more helpful. Let's see. To do. Yep, you gotta do that. Yep. I don't know what to do with this one. Have you ever gotten a royal flush while playing poker or saw someone get a royal flush? Well, I have dealt probably 3 of them myself. Let's see. I have gotten multiple royal flushes in online poker while I'm playing online poker. And I once had a jacket. It was like a windbreaker from Foxwoods. And I know for sure, this was a long time ago, I know for sure I got that jacket because I got a royal flush, but I don't remember getting it exactly. I do remember having King Jack of clubs one time in 4-8 limit, only having one club on the board, like the queen or something like that, or maybe a 10, and I would have turned in river to royal flush, but I didn't get that. But yeah, I have seen 500-600 royal flushes in live poker as someone that worked in the room. I mean, we ran promotions where we had to actually pay out anytime someone got a royal flush. It would be something like maybe $500 if somebody gets a royal flush with 2 cards. Keep in mind you can get a royal flush with 1 whole card, you can get a royal flush with 2 whole cards. You know, they're both true, but I've certainly had my share. I think I've also dealt it in Ultimate Texas Hold'em once. I used to deal table games about 12 years ago, and wow, it's a long time. And they got like 500 to 1 on their $5 blind bet. That was pretty cool. Etienne says, I've only had 1. Well, listen, the more you play, the more they come. My friend Jerry, who helped make the original True Poker Dealer videos and just an amazing guy, he said that right before I met him, so this must have been 2008, he was playing in a room in South Florida and he got a royal flush when there was a progressive jackpot for, it must have been like 4,000 plus, and so he won that. That sounded pretty cool. I could ask him what he actually won. Let's see, because basically some places they do progressive royal flushes by suit and they keep going up every day that they don't get hit. You asked, what's Ultimate Texas Hold'em? Ultimate Texas Hold'em is not a type of poker where you play against other players. It's a table game, sort of like how blackjack is or Pai Gow poker. Ultimate Texas Hold'em, you're playing versus the dealer, and I used to be a table games dealer too, and that was a game that I used to deal as a table games dealer. So that's something that my good friend Heather, Vegas Aces, can teach you on YouTube if you want to learn how to actually deal that. Now, I don't know for sure that she has that video, but I would bet that she's got it because it's one of the more common table games and she teaches all that stuff. So, I mean, I could kind of talk you through how to play it too. I'll do like a quick little rundown. Use paper cards, not the poker plastic cards. Here, let me, I'll move my head over here and sort of out of the way, cover up my logo. In Ultimate Texas Hold'em, there's going to be, let me see. the ante, the blind, and then the optional trips. And let's say this is your money here. So this is 10, 10, and 10, just so you can see it. Again, this is a table game, so it's not the same. So the dealer is going to use a shuffle machine. You just take it out. But if you didn't have a shuffle machine, it would look like this. By the way, table games, I don't play them because I believe that the house has a constant edge, and I like to play games where I have an edge. Like in poker, you can play against other players, but let's say that it's like this, all right? Now you, as a player, would look at your hole cards. Right now, you have the option to wager 3 or 4 times your bet. This is you versus the dealer, just based on who wins. This is a blind bet. You only get paid if you make a good hand and win. And then this is the trips bet, which is optional, which if you get 3 of a kind or better, you get paid here. So again, this is a table game. It's not regular poker like I normally teach, but you asked. So I'm like, let me explain it. So basically, with Ultimate Texas Hold'em, this player can either check, or right now they can bet 3 or 4 times their bet. An 8 high is not beating a random hand, so the recommended strategy is to check. So then the dealer, again, the shuffle machine gives them the cards here, but they're going to bring the flop right now. So with an 8-5 here, you're still not beating a random hand. So your options, now that the flop's out, you can either bet 2 times your bet, or you can check. The 8-5 would probably want to check. Now they do turn and river together. That's just how this game is dealt. And now you have the option to either stay in or fold. An 8 high on this board is like, I would probably personally fold, and you only have 4 hearts, so you don't win anything. You have to have 3 of a kind or better here in order to win. So I would personally fold this hand, and we'll see if we made the right decision. We did not. Wow. You would have won. So I don't know. Some people say you should always stay in. But by the way, I'm not saying I know the strategy for playing Ultimate Texas Hold'em, although there's a website called thewizardofodds.com, and I've actually met him. He's awesome. He's a very accurate communicator, which I find to be very satisfying. But I think he on his website has all the info for how to play this game. I'll do one more hand, make it a little bit more satisfying, hopefully, and we'll see how this goes. So we're looking at this hand now. We have a 10 high. So again, you can check, or you can bet 3 or 4 times your bet. This bet right here, you choose. This player would check, and so let's say that we bring the flop, and it's a 10-8 with a 9-10 jack. Some people would say you should probably bet this, because right now you can either bet 2 times this bet, or you can check. This player should check. At the end of the day, they have a 10 high against a random hand. There's nothing special. But now they have 2 pairs, so they're going to stay in, and we'll see what the dealer has. And the dealer has a pair of 9s, so this time they lose all these bets. And again, they don't have trips, so that's Ultimate Texas Hold'em. It's look, table games are incredibly fun. However, I like playing poker because, like I said, you can control whether or not you win. So, but just for fun, just so it can be satisfying, we'll deal one more hand here. I'm going to give them some more money. I figure I'll keep going until we win one, and then I'll consider the question answered, So, an ace. All right, this is winning against a random hand, so we're going to say they're going to bet 4 times this, and now they're locked in, and the action is complete. So they can't take that bet back. It's just whether or not they win at this point. All right, and that's a pretty good flop because they got 2 pair. They have ace 10, and we go like this. That's just how it's dealt, like I said before. And then the dealer had a 2-3, and so the casino they didn't win the trips, so this gets taken, and then you get paid here and you get paid here. And this one you have to get I think it's a straight or better in order to get paid there. So now we sort of get it. That is Ultimate Texas Hold'em. You know, obviously on the felt that they use, it would show what everything is, the antes and all that stuff too. I wonder if there's a way to make it so that when a comment comes in, I hear a sound. Participants? What does that mean? It can show me the participants. Interesting. So yeah, that was Ultimate. Let's see. So now I'm just kind of going back to, I got my Trello board with all these items on it that I'm working on. For anyone that doesn't use Trello, boy do I like Trello. Trello is for me. Let's see. Alright, I think I'll do... Oh, can't do that. Let's see. I'm doing some legal work right now. Oh, where is it? Being a YouTuber is all hype, and then you get to see behind the scenes a little bit. And there's a lot of stuff to do, although I still love it. And I think you guys are awesome. Let's see. By the way, how many people do you know that use a poker table as their desk? Right? This is me. I'm going through contract stuff with people, and I'm shuffling poker chips at a poker table with a wireless keyboard and mouse, Bluetooth. Just to remind anybody that's watching, please feel free to ask any questions. As soon as I notice it, I will answer your question. Alright, so that's a clean one. Etienne said, okay, 3. What's 3 mean? I must have missed something. What is your favorite version of poker? I appreciate that question. What is my favorite version of poker? You know, it's funny because I assume that you're probably asking that from the dealing perspective, and my thought immediately went to the playing perspective, where I was thinking, like, what do I like to play the most? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, poker's like a fun thing, right? And I like playing, like, large field, relatively decent-sized buy-in tournaments. I think for me, that's what I consider to be the most fun. I really like cash games too, 2-5 and higher. But I mean, I'm fine with 1-2. I would rather play for 2-5. But I think that Texas Hold'em tournaments are the thing that I like the most, because I feel like I'm still working toward feeling like I'm really good at it. And I like Pot Limit Omaha. I like 7-Card Stud. I like the other games, but if you ask me what my favorite is, it's probably just Texas Hold'em, reasonably stacked, reasonable prize pool tournaments. Because I do feel like, you know, I mean, I've cashed some pretty large fields before, and I've never finished first in anything that's live that's like a big buy-in. So I would love to do that sometime. But in terms of dealing, I said it before, I think it's still true. I like dealing Pot Limit Omaha, like 5-5 PLO, where the numbers are real simple compared to, like, you know, 1-2 PLO can be a headache, especially if it's an exact thing. I like that. I really do. 5-5 PLO, a nice little 5-5 PLO cash game at the Rock or something like that. Dealing that game is just chill. It's more interesting too. Maybe that's why, because I've dealt so much Texas Hold'em, right? I apologize for. I apologize for not knowing how to pronounce your name. It says maybe Sulji Kim. Hi. Have you ever witnessed cheating? I have. I can think of a few times that I've witnessed it now. This is from the perspective of the supervisor. Okay, so as a poker floor, I have had to go to surveillance many times to evaluate whether or not somebody was cheating. There was one hand where a player called me over. The dealer had no idea. They were brand new, and there's a lot to keep track of when you're new. But a player at the table told me that a player in a seat next to them or 2 seats over had taken some folded cards, mixed them in with the cards that they had, and used the 2 cards that they wanted to make a brand new hand. So the dealer, when I went to the table and asked about it, the dealer said they didn't know anything about it. And actually, I think the player waited until the other player got up and left to tell me. And they were disappointed that the dealer didn't speak up. And so I went to surveillance. I didn't see it myself. I went to surveillance, and I had to ask this. This is how it works in surveillance, or at least this is how it worked a few years ago when I was doing this. You go into the surveillance room. You have to get signed in. So they have to open the door for you. They walk you to not the actual surveillance room. They walk you to a little separate special room that you're allowed to go in. You have to sign in on a book. And after you sign in on the surveillance book, one of the surveillance members comes out of the actual surveillance room and sits down with you at this one computer and one monitor section. They ask you, or they've already prepared the thing that you've asked to see because you've called them on the phone in the poker room and talked to them directly and told them what you're looking for. So they prepared that part of the footage. And in this case, he had the specific hand and time ready to go, is just what I had to tell him. So we watched the tape, and we did witness, let's see, a player had folded and left. They had folded on the button, and they left their cards like this. And the player in this seat right over here took these 2 cards, mixed them together with this, picked the 2 that they wanted, and then put these other 2 back, just like that. And I watched him do that, and I was like, wow. And basically, from the poker room standpoint, once we go and we watch that in footage and we see that there's evidence of that, we issue the player a lifetime ban. I mean, you can't cheat. Another example of somebody who cheated that I witnessed in surveillance was I was told that a player was adding chips in the middle of the hand. So basically, somebody started with $50 in their hand. And they reached down into their pocket in the middle of a hand when they knew that they had a really good hand, and they added more to bet, and then they ended up betting it. And so we watched, on the surveillance, I watched them add to their stack mid-hand and then make more money off the player. So we had to return. The first player that did it with their hand, they ended up losing the hand anyway, which is pretty interesting. But the second player ended up winning, and they won a lot more, so we had to recuperate the money that they had won. We took it back from them, and we gave them a lifetime ban as well. And then I was a little disappointed because I feel like the player then, about a year later, talked their way back into coming back into the room, and it's like, we can't allow people like this, but they did. He said, wow, that's really ballsy. Yeah, it is pretty ballsy, right? Ballsy means takes a lot of nerve, right? Like just doing something where you have a high chance of getting caught. The argument would be that you have big balls, right? Do things that are courageous or risky. Courageous is probably the wrong word. Etienne says, when I was in school, I used to play poker with my buddies. Then my friends and I started playing lots of stuff like blackjack. Yeah, absolutely. It's bold, is what Sulji Kim says. Again, sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. But yeah, I mean, that's there's some other ones too that I can't quite think of off the top of my head. It's like a lot of people that watch the channel. Your answer was super comprehensive. Thanks a lot. You're welcome. A lot of people that watch the True Poker Dealer channel, like the thought from somebody that hasn't worked in the industry is these stories are wild and super memorable. But what really ends up happening is over time, there's so many ridiculous things that happen that you can't remember them right off the top of your head because it's just super normal after a certain amount of time. And so there's things that, like, you know, I'll remember if someone brings it up to me, but being able to remember what it was off the top of my head is tough. Says, I just began working in a private poker room here in Korea, and your videos helped me tons. I appreciate your work. Thanks. Well, I'm super glad that they helped you, and I always love hearing that feedback. You know, because of these types of comments, I can literally say, and it's true, that I've helped teach more people to be poker dealers than anyone else in the world. I have so many people that tell me how much I've helped turn them into an actual poker dealer where they make an actual living, from so many different countries too. Korea, I think you're the second person who's ever told me that from Korea, and that's awesome, and I really like hearing that, and thank you for telling me that. Yeah, someone the other day told me from Brazil. Somebody the other day told me from where was it? I can't even remember. There's so many spots. But yeah, that's awesome. It says Havocado. I like that. It's funny. Hi, I'm currently doing a workshop where I get trained as a professional poker dealer. One thing they told us to do: after washing the cards and picking them up, the cards should face the dealer, which is odd because I learned from your videos to do it the other way around, so that the cards face the players. In the United States, the poker procedure, if you're talking about regular poker like Texas Hold'em, in the United States, the poker procedure is away from the dealer, so that the dealer cannot manipulate the deck. However, in table games in the United States, such as Ultimate Texas Hold'em, Blackjack, and all those other games, the dealer faces it away from the players. The dealer faces it toward themselves in table games because you don't want the players to be able to track the cards at all. So the thing that I say is, whenever a professional teaches something, it's never wrong, but I can tell you in the United States, every single poker dealer in every single casino that I have ever seen or heard of has the cards face away from them. That's what they do in the WSOP. That's what they do in the WPT. It's always away in poker where players are playing against other players. Table games, including blackjack and even Ultimate Texas Hold'em Pai Gow poker, because it's table games and it's player or it's dealer versus the house, or player versus the house. In table games, it's toward the player. Let's see. Kim says, I couldn't be the second person. I recommended your videos to lots of people. There should be a number of them out there. I appreciate that. It was a while ago, actually. I mean, I've had these videos, the True Poker Dealer videos have been on YouTube since 2012. And, you know, I don't work in poker rooms anymore, but when I used to floor, people would come up to me pretty much every week, it ended up being, and somebody would tell me that they learned from me. I remember one time I was playing poker at a poker room, and I started talking to a player. You know, we were playing 2-5 cash game, and I started talking with the player. They asked me like what I do and stuff like that. I said I'm an entrepreneur, and I mentioned True Poker Dealer, and the dealer was like, "Hey, I learned how to deal from you." You know, it's just like stuff like that happens to me all the time. It's pretty funny. But yeah, I appreciate you telling me that too. There's a lot of people floating out there that I've taught how to deal poker in Korea. That's cool. But I mean, ultimately, that's what this was for. You know, this resource is to be able to help people. It's hard for a lot of people to get themselves into a school. It's a time commitment, and you have to be in one location. I actually considered doing a poker house where people would fly in and take a course with me, and I thought about doing something like that, and I ended up creating the online course instead on YouTube. You know, thank you to YouTube for allowing me to do that. But that's really cool that so many people have learned out there. It's awesome. Yeah. Which advice would you give to a budding dealer like myself? So I want to just be careful in my answer. I have no idea what it's like to deal poker in a poker room in Korea. I have been to I've played poker in Malta. I've played poker in Spain. I've played poker in Canada and the US, of course. I've played a lot of poker in the US. I know that in Malta and in Spain, the dealers had different expectations. And I've also talked to a lot of different people like in England and Australia and Germany and all these different countries, the expectation on the dealers is different. So without really truly understanding what it's like in Korea, it's hard for me to answer that. But this is what it's like in the U.S. In the U.S., as you start dealing, there's a lot of stuff you don't know. And it takes time to improve your speed to what you see the experienced dealers do. So I would focus on learning one detail at a time and training yourself to do it properly. And then go on to the next one once it's trained, and keep doing that until you feel like this stuff is automatic, kind of like driving a car, right? When you first try to drive a car, it's hard. It might be a long time since any of us has thought about this, but it's hard in the beginning because you have to like figure out how the key works, and you have to figure out how to go into reverse, and you have to figure out how to use the mirrors and all this stuff. But once you train yourself with those things, it's effortless. The same thing can be applied to poker, and it can get a lot easier. So focus on training yourself, and don't be upset if there's something that comes up that nobody's ever told you how to do. Just realize that that's going to happen, especially early on in poker. But I was talking to a casino dealer, Jay. I did an interview with him for his YouTube channel. He's a really nice guy. He's in Canada. And he was talking to me about how, he's 22 years. He's been in and out of casinos, and there's always more stuff to learn. So don't ever expect that you're going to know everything. I don't know everything. I just watched 7.5 hours worth of TDA footage, the Tournament Directors Association, from their last summit. And I learned a lot of stuff. I'm going to share it with you guys soon. That's part of what I'm working on in my downtime here. But just go in with the mentality of learning. Obviously, follow the culture of the poker rooms in your country. But go in learning and training yourself to make things automatic that are the correct things to learn, just one thing at a time to the best of your ability. Every table that you deal, you have the opportunity to train yourself. And the more correct the training is, the better off you'll be, for sure. So I hope that helped. ETN says, I wonder how old Texas Hold'em is. Well, let's look it up. I'm going to venture to guess. I'm going to venture to guess that it was not created before Texas was created. So how many years old is Texas? So it says here December 29th, 1845 is when Texas was founded, but it sounds like Texas, what year did Texas receive its name? Let's see what they say for that. Looks like 1845. Kim says, thanks a lot. I really appreciate that. I wish I could stay more, but it's already 4 a.m. here. Gotta go to bed. See you around. You sound like a poker dealer. It is a nighttime culture, so have a good night. And I'm glad that you got to ask that question and I could help. But yeah, let's see. How old is Texas Hold'em? Although little is known about the invention of Texas Hold'em, this is just Google. The Texas legislature officially recognizes Robstown, Texas as the game's birthplace, dating it to the early 1900s. After the game spread throughout Texas, Hold'em was introduced to Las Vegas in 1963, at the California Club by Corky McCorkudale. Sounds like a pretend name, but I believe that it's real. So it sounds like it's right around 100 years old. Texas Hold'em specifically. It's hard to tell though. But interesting. It's funny. I was wondering if I was going to be sitting here getting a lot of work done, or if I was going to be sitting here chatting. I'm totally fine with both of them. I obviously enjoy chatting with you guys. Otherwise, I wouldn't come on here. This is fun, though. It turns out that I'm chatting more. Let's see. He said, I thought it would be older. Well, playing cards have been around for a long time. I can say that. Vidi, I've worked at a small poker room in Finland, and you really had to learn a lot fast. Yes, and I appreciate that feedback for anybody that's trying to learn how to deal. It's absolutely true. When you first get in the box, it's just like there's probably 30 things that you're expected to learn, and you don't have a ton of time to do it. And Vidi says we had no active supervisor, so I had to take care of everything. That's a relatively common experience, but it's also good to know that Finland can be like that specifically. The U.S. can be like that too. It's very different in different rooms. The smaller the room, the more likely that's your experience in some situations. But so I'll give you an example. I don't know what it's like in Finland in terms of expectation. In the United States, the casino would put an expectation on the dealer to figure it out, and at the same time, they would understand what they're doing to the dealer. Now, I've heard very positive things about Finland in general without really knowing anything myself from experience. So my guess would be that they're probably somewhat understanding, but at the same time, they put that pressure on, like what I've noticed in the U.S. Not every poker room really goes out of their way to do training, though. It's like they expect you to learn how to deal well enough to pass an audition, but there's a gap between what you know if you can pass an audition and how to actually run the game for all the little details that come up. And in a smaller room, you have sometimes responsibility that's above and beyond what regular dealers have in rooms that have more support from supervisors and stuff. So I could see that being pretty difficult and chaotic. And one thing that I've noticed is a poker dealer usually goes into their first job with the expectation that it's like another job where they should have been trained, and it's like it's just never been that way. Training poker is too hard for someone to know absolutely everything, so they give them enough and say good luck, go figure it out, and that's pretty common, and I am trying to fix that, but for the most part that is what it's like right now. Vidi says, had to learn to deal the games plus dealing with problematic situations at the same time. I totally understand that that's how it works a lot of the time, yeah. And I've heard this from multiple people that have become dealers, and I've even seen it in a room that I worked at a long time ago. It's like, you're trying to figure out how to do the buy-in for... you get something crazy, right? Like somebody will give you a buy-in of $100, but it'll be 64 $1 bills and a 20 and a 10, and it's like you're trying to figure out how to do this $100 buy-in and arrange it at the table. And meanwhile, while you're doing that, one player starts getting abusive with another player because they don't have as much elbow room as they want. And you're like, I don't know what to do for this situation. I don't know what to do for this situation. And this guy over here is telling me to hurry up and finish it. And you're just like, what's going on? But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like after that experience is over, somehow you manage to get through it. You might not follow proper procedure. You might even get dinged on something that they expected you to know. Maybe you didn't arrange the bills properly. Like it happens. You're not going to get fired for that, but well, it depends what you do, right? If you steal or something like that, you will. But you get through the situation somehow, and then after the fact, you have to figure out what you could have done better, and that's pretty common. Vidi says they pretty much let you make every decision. Interesting, yeah. Being a poker dealer, you probably do have more power in some places in other countries. Supervisors ultimately make all the decisions in the United States, which is what I'm used to. Although I have learned to be a supervisor, so I have learned how to make all those decisions, and I'm always happy to help with those if you have questions on that. ETN said, I went to a comic store and it just got robbed when I arrived. Are you saying that you're watching the live stream on your phone and it just got robbed during this conversation? That's pretty scary, and I'm sorry to hear that happened. It does not sound like a situation that I would want anyone to have to be in. Whew. I got a meeting with somebody in about an hour. I'm like, I hope I remember. I can't set my alarm on my phone because I use my phone for the live stream. Oh well. I'll just have to keep track of the time. I'll do my best. Let's see. Now, how am I going to do this? Vidi says, also dealt roulette plus blackjack at the same place for a year. Taught me so much. Nice. Yeah, when you deal table games, I think this is what you're saying. You absolutely learn mechanics, especially for poker. Makes things much easier. And for the record, I am totally in support of anybody just, learning to deal poker and being a poker dealer, but I'm also in support of somebody learning to deal table games first and dealing table games a little and then going to learn poker. Your mechanics are probably going to be a little bit better if you do that. Not that there's anything wrong with just starting with poker. It's just, it's much more mechanic intensive, procedure intensive in table games. But you also, as like a blackjack and a roulette dealer, you learn a lot about guest service and those types of interactions and problem players and all those types of things. It makes it like you're very familiar with casino in the first place. Players in poker are a little bit rougher around the edges in the United States. I don't know about Finland, but that sounds like it's very, very valuable experience. Peter says, I want to start playing online poker. What would you recommend for starters, cash games or small tournaments? Well, it depends what you want. I mean, so let me see, how do I want to say this? I do not really know when it comes to online poker exactly how. I just want to think of how to phrase this properly. So I'll say this. I like playing on Ignition right now, and I like Ignition because there's no usernames. The number that the way that they identify each player is by a number. In a tournament, it's by their entry number, and in a cash game, it's by their seat number at the table. And I like that because there's so many people that play online that take advantage of everybody's collective information about a username on a particular site, and it makes it so that you're at a disadvantage. So I like Ignition for that. I don't like their software, but it's good enough is the way that I would say it. So I really do like Ignition, and I have an affiliate code that I don't know if it works anymore, but I think it's like WSOPfreerolls.com or WSOPfreerolls2.com, like the number 2 at the end of it. I've linked it up to an affiliate thing because I used to do online poker advertising a long time ago and figured might as well set it up. But that would just be if you want to try to hook me up. I don't know if it's even going to work or not, but WSOPfreerolls2.com, and then it should redirect you to Ignition. But I like tournaments online personally, and I think cash games are not a good idea. If you want to play cash games online, I would say only do it if you're absolutely excellent at online poker, like the best, absolutely able to beat the game. The online poker cash games can be very tough to beat because it's more than just people playing poker. It's calculations and all that stuff. Tournaments on Ignition where you can't use software to tell who's who, to me that's the absolute best way to play online poker. I can't think of a better way to do it if you want to play for real money. That's my opinion. Let's see. Vidi says, yeah, I do think it's good to start with table games. By the way, have you heard of the game, I don't know how to pronounce it, Soko? It looks like S-O with an accent, K-O with an accent. And let me just look it up. Soko. Oh, it's not in English. I'm going to need an English explanation, please. Swedish. Maybe I can just translate. Oh, Soko, poker rules. Oh, it's a type of poker, it says, huh? 5-card stud variant. Canadian stud. It goes by Soko or Canadian stud. Played with up to 8 players. Blinds and antes posted for each hand. The difference between 5 stud and Caribbean stud is that there are 2 additional hands that are added to the ranking. Is this a table game? It's an option in most DC games in Finland. Let's see. Is this betting rounds? Just 5 stud. No, I've never seen this one. That's cool. Oh yes, you said DC meaning dealer's choice. Yep. And to me DC like dealer's choice is something that I associate with home games. Is that true as well? Like, do you have? Are you talking about a poker club where everybody comes in and they still pay to be there, but they pass the deal? Or are you talking about like a place where there's dealers that deal for everybody collectively? Curious. I'm looking in the rules for this. It's kind of confusing. I almost want some kind of a video explanation maybe. Let me try this. SoCo Poker. But I feel like with the accents, I'm probably going to get... Finland. So Finland specifically, it keeps coming up that Finland specifically has this game. 5-card stud on Wikipedia. Less commonly played today. Popular game, still a popular game in parts of the world, especially in Finland, where a specific variant of 5-card stud called SoCo, also known as Canadian stud or Scandinavian stud, is played. The word SoCo is also used for checking in Finland. I-check equals Minä Sokotan. I don't know if I'm saying that right, or Sokotan. Actual casino poker rooms, cool. Description below assumes, so scale of 1 to 10, how fun is it? Like, do you like it? The description also makes it so 7 maybe. Cool. Interesting. It's pretty funny, like, for you guys, for anybody that's watching this channel, if you want to be able to find, oh, how do I play SoCo, you go to YouTube and you search how to deal or how to play SoCo. But for me, I am the one that am supposed to have created that content, so I know it's not there. So I'm trying to like learn this thing, but it's just based on websites. Usually when I dealer's choice, people just spam 5-card Omaha over here. I could see that. That Big O is popular. Interesting though. And in the US, I have never seen a game where the person... I assume when you say dealer's choice, I've only seen dealer's choice when the deal is actually passed. But I assume that you're saying it's dealer's choice from the context that the person with the dealer button chooses the game. Is that true? That's really interesting if that's something that you guys do over there. Because, I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, you get the dealer button. What can you do other than have position? Well, you can choose what game you have position on. If you play a dealer's choice table, that sounds pretty fun. Maybe I could push that in the U.S. I guarantee that I could get casinos to try that if I pushed it. I don't know that I want to put the energy into it, but It's pretty interesting. You know, do you guys have a list of acceptable dealer's choice games? Like, is that how it works? And I imagine it would be dealer's choice limit and stakes, right? So it would say dealer's choice 4-8 limit, or dealer's choice no limit, probably 1-2 no limit, yeah, or dealer's choice 2-5 no limit or something like that. Is that how it works? We'll give him one black tooth. You know, it's like, oh, it's pot limit dealer's choice. Boy, so Finland Light's complicated stuff, huh? That's an awesome game. I like that a lot. Let's see. They do mixed games here, but it changes every number of hands or every orbit around the table, and they have like I've seen as many as 20 plaques with different games, but these are usually like super high stakes games where it's 300, 600 or 400, 800 limit, and it just keeps going around. But all of them are played pot limit. Dealer button chooses the game. Yep. So it's PLO 5, which we call Big O, which is Big Omaha. SoCo, pot limit SoCo. Interesting. Okay, so it's like because I mean we do have 5-card single draw. Is SoCo like that? Like, what's different between SoCo and 5-card single draw? Where, by the way, if I'm pronouncing SoCo wrong, can you tell me? Because I'd like to actually know that. But, yeah, dealer's choice. PLO, Big O, SoCo, because there's the most, and Texas Hold'em. Do you guys also, do you have, what is it? Oh, SoCo could be triple draw, actually. Because if it's pot limit, I could see them doing triple draw. PLO 5 is an interesting way to say. I mean, it makes sense. Pot limit Omaha 5 instead of saying Big O. It's like simpler and more clear what it means. I like that. In the big casino over in Helsinki, there are more options like stud and PLO 8. I've never heard of PLO 8. I'd be curious what that means. Let's take a look. PLO 8. PLO 8. Yes, the gentleman from Upswing Poker. Oh, PLO 8. Duh, just high-low. Yeah, I totally... Because we were talking about PLO 5, I brain farted there. Obviously, I know that PLO 8 is PLO high-low. Yeah, so 8 or better. Yeah, I totally get it. I was... Because I was like, I just learned a new thing. PLO 5 means 5 cards. So PLO 8 must mean 8 cards. How does that work? I don't understand. But yeah, PLO 8 for years in my brain has been 8 or better. And when you guys do PLO 5, is that high-low as well? A lot of Big O is high-low as well. Pretty funny. Let's see. I feel like there's a little crooked. Let me fix it here. Fix it here. Like a green nose? Yeah, red was good. I wanted it to look like a tongue, but it's not quite doing that. Oh well. Look at me. This is me getting work done, right? Let's see. Oh, I did that last time too. But if everybody in the table wants to play it high-low, I guess it's possible. Yeah, so you're saying Big O is just regular pot limit. In the World Series, the dealers who take the audition are actually required to know how to deal Big O, so PLO 5, high-low. Most commonly in the U.S., pot limit Omaha is played just high, and Big O seems like it's about 50-50, high-low, or just high. Pretty evenly split. But in the WSOP, it literally says in their audition manual that they require a dealer to know PLO. They require a dealer to know Big O, high-low, 8 or better. PLO 5 is great for new dealers, good pitching practice. Listen, the room that you are working in, if you took a new dealer who was like a Texas Hold'em dealer trying to figure out Omaha and put them on a game like that, they would just absolutely get crushed. You're right, though. It does get you good skills. The draw games are good for that, too. Good pitching practice. Yeah, 5 times around the table. I used to do competitions with the dealers in the rooms that I was at. We would occasionally it'd just be like, all right, who's on break? Who wants to come in the training room and see what your speed is? And we would have everybody go from shuffle to you have to deal out Omaha hands, not Big O, but still Omaha hands. And from the mini wash, I'd start the clock, and then by the time the last card was dealt to the button, we would stop the clock and see how quick people could go. And on top of that, we had zones set up in the table. The cards had to have landed and remain in the zones for it to count. People really liked that competition. I thought about doing like fun videos on True Poker Dealer with that. But yeah, that is definitely good training. Let's see. Oops. There we go. Also, the action in PLO 5 is crazy. So much variance. Yeah, I mean, the king high flush down value goes down even more. Well, actually, you know what? I haven't played enough of it to really know. So since you've dealt a lot of it, I'm gonna take your word for it more than mine. That's exactly how to sneeze if you're a dealer, by the way. You go to the side, you keep your arm by the table so that you're protecting the tray. Wait, you can't actually see me. Hold on. Let me angle this down slightly so you can see here. And then I'll lift this up. So you go to the side, you keep your hand protecting the tray, and you sneeze right into your elbow if you have no choice. You don't want to get it on your hands. You don't want to sneeze on anybody. The place to do it is inside your elbow, and then you just pretend like it never happened, honestly. There's not really any other way to do that. Let's see. I've seen $7,000 pots in 2-2 PLO 5. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Do you guys play with a 5? Well, what I don't know what the currency is called, but is it a 5 opening bet? Like if somebody wants to just limp, are they limping for 5, or is it actually like the true pot size? And I ask that because I prefer, even in 1-2 and 2-2 blinds, I prefer having 5 be the initial limp. It just makes everything smoother. Oh, it's the euro. Oh yeah. So is it €5 to call, or is it two in 2-2? Is it two to call? Min bet is a big blind, so it's two to call. So that sounds like a pretty math intensive game to deal. Those are the challenging ones, and then when you get used to it, like a lot of it's memorization. But for a new dealer especially, that can be a challenge to figure out those numbers. Yeah, it can be a real struggle. Yeah, it's like I've dealt craps before too, and you mentioned you dealt some table games, but you didn't mention craps. Craps is like so much complicated math, but then you end up, once you do it a few times, you end up memorizing those things, and over time, there's very little effort that goes into it because you already know how to do it, and that's why craps dealers, they end up learning these complicated presses, and you're just like, how can you do that? But it's because they memorize one thing at a time to the point where they don't have to think as much anymore. But yeah, dealing 2-2. You might want to make a suggestion to your room. I'm not saying to change anything because changing things can sometimes upset the players. But you might want to, like, if you have any players at that room that are friends of yours, you might want to ask them, hey, what do you think of changing this game to a $5 limp instead of a $2 limp? They'll probably say no, but I know some players like it better, and it just makes the math a lot easier for everybody. Vidi says, never dealt craps. I've heard it's pretty complicated. Yes. The dexterity combined with the math combined with the procedure is pretty interesting. And it's like a game where when you deal craps, some casino dealers learn, and supervisors, they learn to like break new people in by just running them over. And I've had experienced craps dealers tell me that they've had stickmen who just keep getting the dice out, and they'll be 3 entire rolls behind in payouts and all of this stuff, and it's just crazy. I don't know how they keep track of it, honestly, but they do. I've dealt roulette though; that can be pretty math heavy. Yeah. I have someone that I really respect in casinos that I worked in poker with for a while. I never worked with them in table games, but they worked in table games before I worked with them. And when I used to deal in supervised roulette, the payouts, I would be like cranking numbers in my head sometimes. He told me one time that all that he said to his dealers, and this is what he was taught too, all that he said to his dealers is, if you can't figure out exactly what it is, come up with a number that you think is about right, and then put one chip on top and push it out. And they're usually just like, okay. I was like, you did that? He said, that's what they told us to do. It's not worth taking the time to figure it out sometimes. Just get another spin out there. You make more money as a casino than you would in getting it correct. It's like, okay. Because, at the end of the day, it's like if it's wrong, someone will just say, hey, I think this is wrong. And then you count it down and figure it out, and then that's when you have to do it. I'm not saying I support that, but I certainly found it funny. Let's see. I'm just going through some of my stuff here. You said, yeah, I've seen that happen in roulette as well. Yeah. Listen, casinos are a funny world. I remember when I first started going to casinos as a player, my dad would take me to Foxwoods. We would drive like an hour and a half to get there. I was maybe 21-ish. I was pretty young. And he would like be the one that provided the money, so I just kind of went along with whatever we were doing, and he would have fun with it. He would usually gamble with like maybe $1,000 or so. We didn't go very often, but I remember the very first time I was there and I was playing, I think it was blackjack. It was some kind of a table game, and the dealer made a $5 error in my favor, and I was like confused, and I didn't say anything because I didn't have as much integrity back then in terms of things like that. I do now, but I was still learning the world is the way I look at it. But nonetheless, I was like shocked. I was like, wow, I just got so lucky. Somebody made a mistake in my favor. Like, I can't believe the dealer made a mistake. Now that I worked in casinos, dealers make mistakes constantly. And, putting the chip on top of roulette, like, I'm like, oh, people do that all the time, not just occasionally. Let's see. VD says, if you get it close to a few chips, plus or minus, then it's fine in my opinion. But when your math is wrong by like 20 chips, then it's no good. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And then at the same time, I mean, I honestly default. So if it were my casino, I would totally agree with that. But every casino cares differently about different things. So, the story this guy said, their managers are the ones that said to do this. It's the casino people that are actually saying to do this. So it's like, that's their policy. Okay. Havocado said, are you doing these kinds of live streams on a regular basis? Honestly, I'm sort of testing this out. I mean, right now, I'm just kind of sitting here getting some work done and sharing my time with you guys. Now, traditionally on Tuesdays from 2 o'clock to 3:15 or so Eastern time, Eastern Standard Time, I've been doing live streams. So I figured I'd jump on like normal now. So you can pretty regularly catch me doing a live stream Tuesdays at about 2 p.m. Usually goes till maybe like 3:30 or 4. I do all sorts of different live streams though, honestly. I've taught so many different things in the last 2 months on the True Poker Dealer live streams, or on live streams on True Poker Dealer recently. But a lot of that was creating courses for people to join my channel. So the way that I've been creating a lot of my courses, I prefer teaching with an audience that can ask questions. So I've been scheduling it, teaching it live for you guys, and then once the video is completed and the lesson is completed, anybody that watched it live got to watch it for free, and then after that it's paid and it's behind the membership wall. This right here, what I'm doing, is much more like interactive and friendly. So these ones are just things that I do for fun, sorta. Marcin says, "Are you watching Champions League?" I need to look up what that is. Champions League. Is this soccer? Football? No, I'm not watching it. I used to play soccer for years, and I appreciate this question, by the way. I love sports. I really, really love them. I played soccer. I had to choose when I was in 8th grade between soccer and baseball, because that was what my parents told me. And I ended up choosing baseball, and I played in high school and college. And I played a grade ahead in soccer, so I really loved it. But I stopped paying attention to it about 20 years ago. Although I did watch a handful of the World Cups. But yeah, last night I caught one of the 4 NBA games for basketball. But no, I don't really know much about the Champions League. I can see semifinals live scores and updates, and Right now, it looks like Paris is winning 1-0. I do like Paris. I've been to Paris before. It was like 15 years ago. I loved it in Paris. And it was actually a funny story. When I was in Paris, I booked a hotel for my trip to Europe, not having any idea what I was actually doing. And when I showed up to the hotel, we were there for about 4 days. It turned out that the hotel was directly on Boulevard de Clichy, and I had no idea what that meant or anything like that until I got there. And I was like, whoa, like, what is this? But, you know, it was still a fun time in Paris. Let's see. VT says, what's your team in the NBA? So I am from the Boston area in Massachusetts. I really like the Celtics. I also have been living in South Florida, in Miami, for about 11 years now. And back in 2009 or 2010, right before LeBron James and Chris Bosh came down to join Dwayne Wade in Miami, I actually bought season tickets. I had no idea that was going to happen. I got really lucky. It was 1 month before. When I bought my tickets, the coach Eric Spoelstra gave me and my now ex-wife a tour of the locker room, and like they were really trying to sell tickets. They had no idea what their future was going to be, and I ended up getting super inexpensive lower level seats, and I had those season tickets for about 6-7 years. So I find myself now very tied to both the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat, and I'm super happy about that. I also lived in Seattle. I was living in the Seattle area when the Seattle Supersonics left. That was actually really sad. I liked that a lot. Marcin says, have you ever been in Poland? I have not. Let me tell you the closest I've been to Poland. I have to look at a map real quick to see. My ex-wife is part Polish though, maybe like a quarter or an eighth. Let's see, the closest I have been to Poland is, I think on a map, it's probably, I want to say Venice. Yeah, Venice, Italy is the closest I've ever been to Poland. Not super close. Actually, let me look real quick up here. Yeah, because I've been to, Ireland's pretty far. France is pretty far. I think Venice is it. VD said, damn, that's lucky. Yeah, that was a wild ride. I got to go to every single game that first season, and I sold I think I probably made about $11,000 or $12,000 per year while they were all in Miami, because I was going to games and selling tickets, and the amount I was able to sell the tickets for was insane compared to how much I was paying for them. And Miami Heat is a really well-run organization. They're very loyal. They're very good. They make their money, so they're not gonna jam up the fans and stuff. But it was pretty impressive how I was able to take my seats for every finals game for $86 in the lower level, and they would sell for between $600 and $1,200 a ticket, depending on what game it was. And it was hard for me to justify going, so I went to a handful of playoff games, and I felt like I was spending money even though I hadn't spent the money. So I ended up selling a lot of that stuff and rooting for them. But yeah, needless to say, I was very happy when Ray Allen hit that shot for Miami to win in Game 6 against San Antonio. Marcin says, by the way, correct me, tell me, I don't know how to tell someone how to pronounce, but I don't know if I'm saying it right, and I always want to know how to pronounce names correctly. I think it's Marcin or Marcin. Says Germany, perhaps. I've never actually been to Germany. I do have friends that live there, and they keep telling me to come visit. Obviously I can't do it now because of COVID, but I have never been to Germany, and I would love to go. But if I ever do go to Poland, which traveling is definitely something that I love, what should I do in Poland? I would love to know that, if you don't mind telling me. like, what should I do? Where should I go? When I did go to Europe, I traveled around. I backpacked, and when I was out there, the way that I figured out where to go next was I only booked the hotel in Paris, like I had said, and then I just kept talking to people and saying, like, where should I go next? And they would tell me, and then I would go there, and I kept doing that. I ended up visiting a bunch of awesome places. It's the type of thing I feel like you can do in your 20s more so than I can do now, which now I'm 38. Krakow for sure. All right. What well, let me look it up. Krakow. Ooh, is there a poker room out there that I could visit in Poland? That would be pretty cool too. Now I feel like I want to visit a poker room in Korea. Let's see, and Finland, of course. Let me see. I'll play me some Soko. Krakow. Let's look it up. Krakow University. So they spell Krakow, second largest and one of the oldest cities in Poland. Sweet. Dates back to the 7th century. It's one thing about the U.S. When I first traveled to Europe, I was just blown away by how old the buildings were and stuff like that. The U.S. is just not like that. Maybe a little tiny resemblance in like Boston, but oh man, it's kind of illegal here, unfortunately. So there's no poker rooms in Poland. Well, good news is that will not stop me from visiting. I should mention my brother and my aunt went to Poland. I don't remember when that is. It just clicked with me that I remember him saying that maybe 20 years ago. Well, I definitely appreciate that, and that location will stand out to me for sure. Krakow, love it. There's also a fun Vidi says there's also a fun variation of Dealer's Choice they run in Casino Helsinki, which I think you mentioned that above, right? You said that Casino Helsinki, they also add stud and PLO 8. So they play pot limit stud. I imagine that could get kind of crazy or interesting. It says, I think it's called Petersburgian DC. Petersburgian DC. You think what's called Petersburgian DC? Like the game that they spread? Oh, yeah. That's Dealer's Choice. Petersburgian. Let's check it out. Petersburgian poker. Russian Dragon. This is like popping up on poker listings. The poker listings daily 3-bet is a pair of gold shoes, an urge to rhyme in the translucent aura of someone with that afternoon poker news glow. Got a hot tip for a future 3-bet? It's just like, okay, today in the 3-bet, we find an understated St. Petersburgian slaying a Russian dragon. Fedor Holtz is not real, and Phil Hellmuth has a WSOP glow on. Yeah, but this one is a little different. Everyone gets dealt 2 cards face down, and the small blind gets to look at his or her cards. And after that, he or she gets to choose the game. So you're saying that this entire version of DC allows the small blind to choose what game it is, and so everyone gets 2 down cards, and the small blind chooses what game they're playing. So like if the small blind gets dealt pocket aces, they say hold 'em, right? That's what I imagine would happen here. It's very interesting. I gotta say, people in Finland are coming off in this conversation as very sophisticated and intelligent. I just don't think that the typical American would be capable of understanding and enjoying what you're describing. Like, I would love it. I feel like a lot of people that are like pro poker players would love it, but casual recreational players out in the United States, I mean, at least in Florida, I just don't see them being able to keep up with this game and being like, what the heck is this, you know? But I think this is really cool, and this is the type of thing that could turn into WSOP events or WPT events if they're not already doing that. So it says, Marcin says, sounds fun. Yep. VD says, so if he or she chooses Omaha, for example, everyone gets dealt 2 more cards. Yeah, I figure that's what you meant. It's just a really, like, I feel like I could deal home games with these concepts that you've given me for these variants, and I'll just call it Finland night, right? Like, I can't say I understand yet what would the strategy be for that? It also makes it so that the small blind's never going to have certain hands in different games, right? Like, if you get... Do they offer low games as well? Like, if you get dealt an ace deuce, can you say that you want it to be a hand of ace to 5? Or could you say, like, PLO 8 if you get an ace and a deuce suited to start? So if she chooses Omaha, for example, everyone gets dealt 2 more cards. Yep. Do you think that the hold'em on the highest level is getting boring? Or that hold'em on the highest level is getting boring? I think that people who play a lot of poker like variety, and I think that it's so, like, the cycle that my mind just went through was, there was a time where I was bored of Hold'em, and now all of a sudden I like it again. Like, I think that even if you do get tired of Hold'em, you'll start to like it again later, and I think that that's a compliment to the way that the game is made. And the reason is that the runouts and all that stuff are pretty similar, but, you know, there's challenges. It's like winning a Texas Hold'em tournament with a large field to get a WSOP bracelet is a lifelong challenge. So it's hard to truly get bored of it. You know, and every year, the poker pros always talk about this, every year the game changes a lot. So nowadays, for example, in live poker, it's becoming much more common for players to pot control, which means check the turn in a lot of cases for pot control. Sometimes even checking the river, sometimes even checking the flop. But, like, for the most part, the game is pretty much don't donk bet, meaning if somebody raises pre-flop and you call and you're out of position, don't lead into them by betting. But I could see, like, 2-3 years from now having donk betting be a thing that's done a lot. You know, like, over betting became a thing. I think it happened after Max Silver did it in the World Series. It wasn't really being done a whole lot before then, from what I remember. It's just, there's all these little things in terms of the way that people play the game that change, and I think that partly does make it more and more interesting. VD says, I guess it's possible to have high-low games in this variation as well. Yeah, I'm just curious. The small blind, looking at their cards and then choosing the game is interesting. It's very interesting. Peter's version. I want to see if that's consistent here. So... No, it's only the one spot of it. Flush of Glamour. Marcin says, interesting answer, thank you. Well, I appreciate that. You know, the thing about poker in general and gambling in general is the reward is when you can get money at something consistently. I think it's only if somebody is like able to make money at it very easily, consistently, that they get bored of it, and that's only if they have money in their life already. It's like it's hard if you're good at the game. Yeah, like if you lose all the time, it gets super boring. But it's not boring. It's just painful. Um, yeah. Vidi says, never heard of it being played anywhere else. It's probably popular in Russia or something like that. Yeah, based on the name, I was thinking that too. I did mention a while ago, I actually have a meeting with somebody in 5 minutes now, so I'm going to start to do a wrap up now. I definitely appreciate everybody coming and hanging out with me. I gotta prepare for this meeting for a few minutes, so I'm going to wrap up very shortly here. But Tuesdays, my goal for Tuesday is generally to have something interesting. I like the idea of it being something where I'm teaching or something where I'm going over critiquing. Maybe next time what I'll do is I'll find some content online. Anybody can send me an email with links that I could use, and I would love to be able to watch videos of dealers dealing and then critique them on Tuesdays and then answer questions or something like that. Nick says, yo, hey, what's up, Nick? Nick is in Germany. How's it going, man? I'm about to wrap up, Nick, but it's always good to see you here. Everybody say, congratulations, Tim. He's got a baby on the way. Marcine says, I kind of mean that I prefer watching old Poker After Dark episodes for the third time than live WSOP Final Table. Yes, the televised content is much better when it is not live. I totally agree with that. Although I think it's Poker Central has been putting out YouTube videos now where they do the top 5 hands from each WSOP main event. I found those videos to be really enjoyable. Some of it's like throwback for me, which I like. But yeah, I thought that stuff was really good. So I do totally understand, like, watching Texas Hold'em, it's the same thing over and over again to a degree. Like, oh, they had aces. Oh, what are they gonna do? Oh, they had ace king. Oh, they re-raise, all this stuff. But if you're talking about playing, I think it's really still interesting. Also, somebody like Mike Postle sort of ruins a part of it. But I mean, you can also go check out TCH Live, Texas Card House Live. It's a YouTube channel, and they do a lot of live streams that they keep improving it each time. Like, they're not improving it as quickly as I'd like them to personally, but it's pretty interesting. Vidi says, thanks for the chat, buddy. Might see you around next time. Great. Always love when people join. Well, I do appreciate everybody hanging out with me, like I said. You guys are great. I have recently released a new membership level as well, which I don't really like to plug myself. I find every time I do it, I just feel like I'm not being, like, I like talking instead of like promoting, but I realize I haven't even said anything about releasing the new membership level where you can learn all the mixed games and everything. So, my goal is to make it so that somebody can literally just use my YouTube channel to learn how to pass a WSOP audition, which those auditions are difficult. And now all the content's there. So I feel proud of that, so I'm sharing it now. But there's only a few people that are actually even listening. But thank you to everybody. I am going to jump off, and I will catch you all next time. So take care.